Hi, I'm Dr. Gopal and welcome to Second Opinion. We previously had an orthopedic surgeon and we went with Dexter. Today I'm really excited. We have somebody who delves in Eastern medicine. Today we have Troy Hadeed. And we're going to talk a bit about yoga, we're going to talk about energy. But at the end of the day, I think there's brilliant lessons for everyone to be learned here. Without further ado, welcome to the show. Welcome to Second Opinion. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Gopal. Today we have with us Troy Hadeed. Troy is a practitioner of yoga, Eastern medicine as most may know it, and a motivational speaker at One Yoga Studio, where he's involved in teaching the practices to his clients of breathwork, mindfulness, awareness, and so many more in their quest to get into a better version of themselves. Troy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, pleasure.
Good. So start from the top, Troy. I mean, I have my own knowledge of energy, mindfulness, etc. But for those who really never been introduced, tell me what's your interpretation of it to them?
Wow.
What would you?
That's a real general
start
question.
hard. Well, I mean, put it in your best words you could say. Yeah.
So what I would say is that
as best possible. As best possible.
I try to make it simple to those.
Don't.
Right?
Go ahead.
There's a lot happening beyond what we can see and touch.
Of course.
In other words, right? And the word yoga means union or to yoke in a very simple term, to bring together, right? And there's a spiritual teacher, some people may have heard of him here, there's a series on Netflix, his name is Osho.
Okay, yeah.
And his teachings were quite phenomenal. And he said, he pretty much said yoga is an illusion. And at first someone could say, well, how Troy? And he could say yoga is an illusion, and he teaching yoga.
Right.
Because yoga means to yoke or join. But Osho says, how could you join what was never separate in the first place?
Right, of course.
Meaning that, yes, in the practice of yoga, someone can simply say it's a joining of mind, body, spirit. It's a joining of me and you, myself with God, myself with the things around me. But in reality, those things were never separate. And they are not separate. So I would like to say yoga is a practice of more a realization and an embodiment of the fact that all things are connected.
Right.
Every single thing is connected. And this also implies to the element of ourself, meaning our mind, our emotions, our physical body, our spiritual body, are all what we eat, what we do, what we think, are all so intertwined beyond what we could possibly fathom. And if we take that outside of ourselves, our relationships, our interaction with nature, our interaction with people, the environment we go into, as a planetary interaction with the universe, everything is so intertwined. The words we speak, our thoughts, beyond, in my opinion, what we could possibly understand.
So connectivity are the key.
Connectivity.
But first and foremost, also looking within.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, in yoga too, they have this, what could now be a cliche term almost, called namaste.
Right.
People associate that with yoga. And what namaste means at its very core to me is God within me acknowledges the God within you and all living things. Now, the first statement there is the God within me, which means that I can't acknowledge and see God within you and everything around me if I don't truly connect to God that lives within me. Or else I won't be able to see it. I won't be able to identify it. And at the core of the yoga practice, to me, to know and identify that divinity that lives within us, we have to spend time to do that.
Is mental fitness to an extent,
It's a stillness, and they have so much spiritual traditions that say, be still and know that I am God, and not to take it there too much, but that stillness, to be in stillness is where we can deepen our relationship to our mind, our emotions, our thoughts, our breath. And then we could begin to deepen all our relationships to each other, to the world around us.
Well, that brings up the point of connectivity, and you touched on it a bit just now. But it's interesting because, as I said, listening to your experience as a 15-year-old being drawn into the spiritual realm, 14, apologies, and you're introduced to the Brahmacharya by a teacher, right, Mr. Gayadeen, sorry, I don't know why I was thinking Ramcharan. But at a young age, at 15, I mean, I was like, what would I have done with that at 15? Yet I'm very mind blown that you actually had such an experience. You went back to the principal office on your own accord just to read. I mean, What was that like? And what did that, at 15, at 14, sorry. At 14,
let me go into that story a little bit, right? Because it's quite phenomenal. We have time?
I listened, of course, we always have the time.
Good. So I've been teaching yoga now for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And for 14 of those 15 years, every time someone asks me, well, how you got into yoga? How you found yoga? I say two things. When I graduated university, I wasn't practicing yoga, but I knew I was going to teach yoga. I knew it in the depth of my heart. But I always cite my first true influence and glimpse into Eastern tradition and yoga as being 14 years old. When I remember going up to every lunchtime, I would give up my lunchtime and go up to meet one of my teachers, Mr. Hadeed, and I would read these books. And these books, I always used to say what the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I can't remember what I was reading. I just remember I used to go and read these books. And these books used to be around Eastern teachings and culture and yoga. So I always said for 14 years that one day I wish, I could meet Mr. Hadeed again and just tell him how he may have possibly influenced my life, And then January 2019, on my website, I have people could come and make comments, but then you have a lot of spam and stuff.
Right.
So it's set to go to junk. But I remember so clearly sitting on, and I picked up my phone mindlessly, checked my email, and there was a comment from my website, which is very odd because it's supposed to go to junk. So I say, whatever, let me check it. And I check it. And the comment goes, I think I gave you practice of brahmacharya to read in 1994 in Fatima College, S. Hadeed. So if you could imagine my surprise now, I was like, nah, this can't be. So I replied to him and I said, Mr. Hadeed, I've been teaching yoga for the last 15 years, blah, blah, start around. I said, send me your phone number. So he sent me his phone number and I call him. And he answered the phone like this and he says, Troy, he said, I've been talking about you for the last 14 years. And I said, well, Mr. Hadeed, I've been talking about you for the last 14 years. And sorry, previous to that, he replied to my email with his phone number, but with a beautiful email.
Right. Did it go to spam, that one?
No, no.
You didn't see it.
And that's when I picked up and called him. And he says, I've been talking about you for the last 14 years. Because at 14 years old, you blew me away. He said, and he made it very clear, right? I can't remember the details. He said, you came to detention. He said, you were sent to detention. And when you came to detention, I gave you a script on the practice of brahmacharya to read. Now, the practice of brahmacharya revolves around what someone can loosely say is sexual conduct and how to handle sexual energy. So he explains to me it was a joke. Like you get a 14-year-old a script to read around sexual conduct. You know what I mean?
What's a 14-year-old supposed to do with that in education?
Exactly. And he says I sat and I didn't lift my head. I read the entire book. I just kept reading and reading as long as I could. And then he said, and you came up to detention every day of your own free will, every lunchtime to sit and read. And he says, and your commitment and fortitude at 14 years old blew me away.
Of course.
So he says, I'm teaching yoga in Canada now, teaching school in Canada. And he says, I always tell my students about this young man called Troy Hadeed at 14 years old, who would blew me away with his commitment to reading this material that most adults couldn't even read.
Of course.
And I said, well, Mr. Hadeed, I'm talking to you about you for the last 14 years as a teacher who possibly influenced my life in such a profound way without even knowing it. And we had no communication for 14 years. And he says, it's amazing the synchronicity without even a word. And he said how he found me was he was again talking to his class in Ontario. I think I don't know what level, maybe young teenagers. And he mentioned my name and one of them Googled my name. And they said, Mr. Hadeed, do you know he now teaches yoga and runs a yoga studio? And he was like, what? And he said he was absolutely dumbfounded when he looked at the website and he realized what had become of my life, that I was traveling and teaching yoga. And he said he was absolutely blown away. But it just goes us to show, like I said, it's not about if we change the world or not. You know.
It's happening.
About how
we
are changing the world.
I have a thing where, you know, I don't believe there are coincidences. Things happen, they happen for a reason, and it's up to you to interpret that and make the best out of it. But when you say coincidence, for example, it's many times you're thinking about somebody and they call in 2 days.
Yeah.
Or it happens like that, and you'll be like, I was just thinking about you, but that is an example of connectivity within the universe, if you want to call it that, you know. So, fascinating story first to begin with, but I'm glad you brought it up because it's stuck on the point of connectivity. Yeah. So, that's great, but I have to ask you, you know, having you incorporated all that, and now you have your yoga studio, you have clients in front of you, people you help daily. I know we just expounded a lot. What would you say then is the single most prominent benefit you could say that you give to your clients when they come to you? Yeah. What do you really see the change, or how you teach them, if that's the case?
Before I answer that question, I would like to say, because it's important, because words is important and perception is important. I wouldn't call it my yoga studio and I wouldn't call it my clients, right?
Okay, sure.
This is a community in which I share yoga.
Of course.
And I am a student of yoga, and I share that journey, right? Rather than use the word teach, even though I know it's easier to use the word teach. So it's not what I give to them, but I would phrase it like this. I believe that what people get when they come into our space or our community is that stillness and that space where, you know, I understand people may have intimidation and these perceptions around coming into a yoga studio and your space, but when you come into that space, it is like a family. And I believe that what people get is that it's almost like a break. It's like a space where they can be still, reflect, whether consciously or unconsciously, on what's happening in their minds, in their thoughts, in their life, in their body. It's like a step back from the noise, from all the disconnect, to really connect.
Listen to your intuition of sorts. Yeah,
because, you know, there's a lot of yoga taught in the world today. And I'll be first to tell you, a lot of it is very disconnected and has forgotten what the fundamental teachings of yoga are. But if yoga is practiced in that depth of relationship to yourself, then what you're doing is taking time to reestablish and reconnect to your relationship to yourself. Because if this is not in alignment, you cannot serve the people around you.
Of course.
If you're out of alignment.
You can't be the truest Troy.
Yeah, you can't be true. You can't. You know, I always say that if I personally didn't think that the practice of yoga increased our capacity to love one another, I would walk away from it immediately. Wash my hands and walk away. Because I have no interest in teaching a physical art or physical exercise or anything that's physically oriented only. And the way I think yoga does that, increase our capacity to love, is this. The very first teaching of yoga says Atta Yoga Anushasana, which can be interpreted in a few ways. To me, it means that yoga is now. In the present moment, in this moment, right here, is the only place where me and you can be one. Can be inner element of yoga. If your mind runs to something in the future, or my mind runs to something in the past, we're no longer present, which means I cannot really see you.
It comes back to stillness, as you said.
So a simple example. If I heard that Mark did X, Y, and Z, he's not a good person, he treated someone badly, and I carry that interpretation from me, that perception from the past. When I meet you,
It's going to be on
That
your mind.
comes back to me.
Forward, yeah.
So that prevents me from being able to see you.
100% agree.
Whereas if we see each other in present moment as we are, that's when we see God in one another. Whereas if we attach a perceptions of past or a projections of future, we can't see each other. And here's how yoga does this, right? Second teaching of yoga, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, says that yoga is the quieting of the fluctuations of the mind. Which means that, people look at yoga and have a perception of yoga being a physical exercise. And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's taught nowadays.
Well, that's why I was going to ask you, because, a lot of physicians also, when you hear yoga,
Yeah.
we think physiotherapy. I mean, I could understand the mechanics of it, you stretch and you do things, but then short of that, I suppose many of them, this energy conversation is a difficult one.
Yeah.
This breath work and everything is difficult, but you don't have to wait to see somebody get benefits before you could sometimes try it. I mean, that's a leap of faith, which we do in different things in life, whether it's taking a business risk or what, but in your health and spiritual fitness, I think is just as important.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no difference.
Yeah.
There's no difference at all. That's a big illusion that we bought into. But and bringing it back to this a little bit, when you step into what we call asana practice, which is physical postures, right? If you're just waving your body around, sure, you're just doing physical exercise, may as well do aerobics. No offense to aerobics, right? But if you start to move so intimately that you sync your body and your breath in absolute union, right? They say breath is a vehicle upon which the body and the mind merge.
Right.
So that way, if I'm moving in such an intimate way, lengthening my breath and matching my breath and my movement, I have to be present mentally. I can't be thinking about spouse or grocery list or wherever it is. So, in other words, just to cut it short, when we step down mat to practice yoga, it's a training. It's a practice where we learn to be present. When we learn to be present, yoga really begins when you take that off of your mat into your daily life. You understand? So you're not as reactive. So you're present and you're able to see where you need to be accountable, where you need to do better. I always tell someone, people have this thing where they can't practice yoga because they're drinking or they're smoking or they have these habits or they have these bad influences in their life. And I always say that someone who practices yoga is not someone who doesn't lose this or is never out of alignment,
I think that's what it's for.
Yeah,
it's for those
it's
people.
just someone who realizes when they are.
Yeah.
So when you're out of alignment, you see it and you're like, wow, I know better. I should have done better. And you take accountability.
Yeah.
But if you're not mindful and you're not present, which is what's happening in our society, you're out of alignment. You don't realize it because you're blaming everybody else. And that's what's happening in the world today.
Of course, yeah. I 100% agree because, everybody goes through their own journey. And it's interesting, but, as you said, and different people, like a Navy SEAL would say, take accountability for it.
Yeah.
Do it. You own all the responsibility you could own. That may fall into a facet of yoga. But at the same time, you would look at breathwork or any other part of it and you say, whether you're drinking, smoking, whatever you're doing, you will feel not in yourself at some point.
Yeah.
The people say, you have drugs which you could use, and we'll probably get to this later, but what is your point of using any drug? Is it something that brings you closer to yourself or takes you further away from yourself? Because people use, as I said, even in Costa Rica, they use ayahuasca and shamans have been using these things and smoking pipes and they use it in religious ways.
Yeah.
But what is your purpose of using it? Are you dumbing your spirit or are you bringing it up higher?
Yeah.
So I know, for example, when you feel out of sorts or you feel not in alignment with yourself, yoga is like, or meditation for me, it's like it's like work. It's work you have to do to get back.
Yeah.
But I have seen in my life, and it's just simple things. Let's say you're driving in traffic. What you drive on will usually get you angry for in traffic, and I've seen it. But you do the work just to program yourself to, hey, don't be so reactive.
Yeah.
You meditate. I've seen myself meditating a few months and seen things not get me as angry as they used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that alone is fascinating.
Yeah.
There's
a great teacher, his name is B.K. Iyengar.
Okay.
He passed a few years ago. But he said something really amazing that has stuck with me forever and will always. he said that your mind is the king of everything. Meaning that, to me at least, your mind and the way you perceive things creates your reality.
Of course,
It creates your reaction. It creates how we perceive things around us. And I always use it as an example. What color is this pillar?
Well, to me, it looks around brown there. It looks brown, yeah.
Yeah, and you said the right thing.
Yeah.
Because if I chose to believe this was blue,
Yeah.
you can't choose.
I can argue with you.
You can't argue with me unless I choose to believe differently. And that's how powerful the mind is, right?
Yeah.
So he says, mind is king of everything, but breath is king of your mind. And the
excellent.
only thing that can train your mind is your breath.
Okay.
And because you talked about breathwork a lot, so I figured I wanted to bring it back to that, because very often I learned to breathe at about 27 years old, 2 years after.
And you know, that's such an overlooked thing. Listen to the simplicity, but the complexity in what you're saying. You learn to breathe at 27. Like, I have had the same problem, and I want you to get more on it, but when people talk about sleeping, so when people have problems sleeping, I told them for 31 years I would have a problem sleeping. I'm 32 now, going to be there soon, but meditating alone, just getting into the process of breathing, releasing tension, I fall asleep like that now. I don't have that problem. So expound more on breathing, sorry.
So that's really interesting, because that's what, to me, ties it all together, right? We are often told that breath is automatic, our automatic response. Shouldn't be all the time. It should be a very intimate response in which we can have relationship and control breath, right? And it's not just about breathing, you know, like I often hear yoga teachers in class would tell people, breathe, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And I keep having to say, man, it's not just about breathing, you know. People breathe 20,000 times a day. You don't have to tell people to breathe.
Yeah, they know.
What you need to do is guide their relationship to their breath. So it's one of intimacy, one where they're actually present. Because a lot of the time people breathe in their belly. They're taught this diaphragm breath, which is not wrong, right? I'm not saying it's wrong.
It's part of it. Yeah.
But your breath lives up here. Your breath lives up into your rib cage and your chest, you know. And one of the, I won't go into detail, it'll take forever. But one of the most amazing realizations for someone to come to, and this is medicine, this is not just mumbo jumbo, is that we don't pull air into our body. We receive air, right? It's a vacuum.
A negative pressure.
Right. The more space we can create in our body, the air pressure descends, so air moves inside of us, right? So we do not actually breathe. We are breathed by something externally. And what's breathing me is breathing you, right? Now, let me connect this to the physical body. If your muscles of your body are tight and restricted, I talking about muscles on the bottom of your foot, muscles along your calf, your psoas, your quad, everything. Muscles of your back, of your shoulders. If the muscles of your body are tight, your body cannot expand to receive breath. You know, so very often I hear athletes come and they say, man, I need to stretch, injuries, I don't want to get injured. And I say, Brad, forget injuries, you know, you're not even breathing properly, homie. You know, like you want to have stamina, but you can't. Because you're so tight that you can't function efficiently because you're unable to breathe properly.
I mean, it's the most basic thing, oxygen. You need oxygen for everything. While you're on that, I'll just add something here. I don't know if you know about him, Wim Hof. He's ice, and he talks about how you could control your temperature, control your immunity, do everything simply with breath. And it's even shown, there was a study on him, and you know, I don't know if you saw his most recent video, but he would say they thought he was a crazy man talking about it until recently he was injected with a strain of E. coli. The University of Amsterdam monitored him, gave other patients, and he showed that he could fight off disease just by controlling his breath.
Absolutely. Now, what to my knowledge, I can't say I know lots of what Wim Hof is doing, but everything Wim Hof is bringing is ancient teachings of pranayama and breathwork. It's yogic teachings, it's Buddhist teachings, it's all these different kriyas and breathwork practices that he's bringing to the forefront, which are all amazing. But it all comes down to breath. And a little story for me, at least. I mean, some people believe in a divine force, a
Right.
God, whatever you believe they look
Yeah.
like or whatever. I believe, for me, it's formless.
Yeah.
But growing up in, and I'll make this quick, growing up in a Catholic home, you know, when I started teaching yoga, I've always been really close to Christ as a guru or teacher or
Yeah.
God or
Yeah.
whatever. And when I started teaching yoga, of course, there's this illusion and perception that in some way yoga is a religious practice
Yeah.
and is in contradiction to teachings of Christ.
Right.
Who to me is the greatest yogi that
Right.
ever walked the planet.
Yeah.
But that's a different
Yeah,
interview.
yeah, no problem.
But my point is this, that I was a bit puzzled because I began to understand the power of my breath.
Right.
As I move and as I learn to breathe and deepen my relationship to my breath in my practice, I begin to feel closer and closer to God.
Yeah.
I felt like I was getting to know God.
I suppose it's not its own individual religion, but a medium by which you could connect better to whoever you believe in. You know, as you said,
Yeah,
Christ
of
may be
course.
your yogi, you may have
Yeah,
Buddha,
yeah,
Allah, whoever it
yeah.
is. You know, it's
So on the flip side, what happened now was, I always say can't remember what it was brought me to it, to go and look up what the word spirit meant.
right.
Like your Holy Spirit. And then I discovered that the word spirit comes from the Latin word spiritus,
Right.
meaning to breathe. So that's when two worlds for me came together, right? And I understood that not only is my yoga practice sacred and a form of prayer, but so is life.
Yes. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, that I encourage people, if they connect to some kind of divinity, imagine that every breath you're in relationship with divinity.
It's flowing right through you.
Yeah, we're living prayer, embodied prayer. You
That's
know?
great. Troy, we touched on breath. We grazed in the surface. I know there's so much more. But tell me, apart from this, because this is Eastern medicine, and this is just
Right.
just as I suppose sections of them.
Yes.
Are you involved or do you follow any sorts of alternative methods such as acupuncture, you know, chakra clearing, therapeutic
Yeah.
massage? What are your thoughts on those, for example? Or do you delve in those?
I don't personally. I'm very wary of people that do. Just very like cautious because energy work is a serious thing.
A very serious thing.
Very serious
A very
thing.
serious thing.
And what I find now is we have people popping up all over the place as healers or energy workers. That takes a generation of training to know how to work with someone's energy. You know, and I've also heard.
I suppose it would be a powerful skill if you understand. That's not something to.
Powerful skill. That's not something you go and
to
do
play
a
with.
course and learn quickly. And then, you know, someone's energy and the trauma they carry is so intertwined in their life that, to me, to be a really efficient energy worker, you have to know someone's experience inside out, or you could end up causing more damage than good. So for me personally, I share yoga, the practice of yoga.
Right.
And the practice of yoga to me deepens someone's relationship to themselves and their relationship to breath and spirit and God. That in itself is medicine.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
So with regards to acupuncture and Reiki and all this energy work, they all are really powerful.
Yeah. In
Really
their own way,
powerful.
but done by the, and I suppose led by the correct person.
Yeah. So like, you know, one of my teachers, Ryan Leo, reminds several times, he says, you know, yoga can be medicine or it can be poison, much like anything else. Acupuncture, Reiki, any of that energy work, it can be medicine or it can be poison. And I would just urge people that whoever they're working with, if they are, to be sure that you understand what that person's training, where they're coming from, and you feel that they're in alignment. Because every time we speak to someone, or we touch someone, or someone touches us, there's a transfer of energy.
Of course, yeah.
You know, and if someone is out of alignment, and you are not in alignment yourself, they could possibly throw you out of alignment. you know.
Just from a scientific point of view, I totally agree with you, because anytime anybody says something, I said, remember, whatever matter you think we are, we still at the base level compose the atoms.
Yeah.
Atoms are energy, and energy it can't be created or destroyed, it's just transferred.
Yeah.
So if you want to be scientific, respect the fact that that is science.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
that's the truth.
I also love, you know, now, because you have all this new age mumbo jumbo
Yeah,
now, right?
yeah, yeah.
And you hear people talking about the full moon and Mercury in retrograde and blah, 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 and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And all of it is true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The universe affects us and our environment affects us, right? But what's also true is that there's a universe within us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we spend time to keep that universe in alignment, that universe within us would not be easily shaken by universe around us.
Yep. I agree with you.
And there's a teaching that says a yogi carries his own weather with him.
Right.
And I think at its core, that's what it means, is that the yogi's in control of the universe within, you know.
Yeah.
So he's
I
not
suppose that's your
easily
energy also that you would carry in the world.
Yeah.
But it comes back to what we were saying from the beginning. Stillness, what you believe, and how you affect
Yeah.
people around you.
Absolutely.
So, apart from this, like to me, I would have my own interpretation of what I think is meditation, but I've read, I've seen different things. I remember, and I don't want to say passive meditation, but my interpretation of meditation so far would have been, you know, you sit with yourself, you're very still, and as you said, stillness, it incorporates that. But I remember seeing one of my mentors and him interviewing a guy called Althought, who does active meditation. And only when I was in the position, I think I was in London at the time, and I would have gone out the night before, really drained the morning, but he started the entire session with active meditation, which involves breathing, catharsis, grounding, tranquilization, and then celebration. So we literally took some deep breaths in for a minute. Different stages, we sat with ourselves, we laughed for a minute. And then after we all talked to each other, and it was strange how my energy lifted after that. I could not explain it. But do you have any, you could probably say we all actively meditate. It's based on how we carry ourselves through life. But have you had any experiences with those sorts of things, or what do you think on that, you know?
Yeah, I do. And I acknowledge there are many different approaches to meditation and breathwork and whatever, and they all have amazing value. I try to talk of it in a really simple way, right? First of all, I feel like there's a huge misconception as to what meditation is. Because a lot of people often come and feel defeated by meditation and say, man, I can't do it. It's like, what do you mean you can't do it? Well, I can't quiet my mind. My mind is racing, and I can't quiet my mind.
If you start there,
Someone even said to me, I can't shut my mind up. And I was like, well, why you want to do that in the first place? Because why would we want to shut our mind up? The nature of your mind is to create. That's the nature of your mind. And it is creating. It's very powerful, right? But I love to explain a relationship to your mind like this, right? Think about marriage. So in our world today, you have two people that get married in union. The only difference between your relationship to your mind and your relationship to your spouse or your wife or your husband is that in our physical realm, you have the option of divorce or separation.
Right.
With your mind, you don't have
With
that.
you forever. Yeah.
With you forever, right? So now put it this way. At the very core of any harmonious union is relationship. It's about spending time with one another, right? So I like to describe meditation as that. You're spending time with yourself. You would never tell your partner, shut up, be quiet. You don't want to do that. Your mind has something to offer. But what we need to do is deepen a relationship to your mind, which is that now we live in our lives and we have a relationship to everything else. So we think we do. And the mind is like an adolescent child because we're ignoring it. So it starts to scream, it starts to shout, it starts to go on like a crazy person, when all the mind really wants is to spend time. Now, of course, at first, you're going to sit and spend time with your mind, and it's going to have a lot to say. A lot to say that is going to be scary at times, because it's going to tell you and show you things you would rather not see.
Because you haven't spent time with it for so long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I always say that the only way to turn darkness to light is to see darkness. If you ignore any darkness all the time, you'll never turn it to light. You're never going in that room to turn on the light
Agreed.
switch, right?
And you in charge of turning on the light switch also.
Of course.
You are in charge.
Yeah. So my point with regards to meditation is this. It's not about shutting your mind up. If your mind is speaking, just look, try to understand your mind. Try to look at the thoughts that repeatedly come up. Try to pay attention to what draws your mind's attention. If you want, bring it back to your breath. It's going to run off again. Then you bring it back to your breath. It's going to run off again. So my biggest advice to anyone is don't ever feel you can't meditate. That's a self-limited thought. That's garbage. The basis of meditation is simplest place to start. If you believe in a God, you say a prayer.
Say a prayer.
You bless your space. You set your time on your phone. Put it on airplane mode. Set your timer 5 minutes. And you sit. Try to sit with a long spine, but you want to be comfortable, right? So nothing's wrong with sitting in a chair. You don't have to be out holding your man and you cock up your legs. Sit in a chair. But you don't want to fall asleep. So long spine, and you sit and just look. Just spend time. And next thing you know, that 5 minutes going to 10 minutes, going to 15 minutes, going to 20 minutes. Next thing you know, you're sitting for an hour and you don't know where time gone. And you're definitely going to start to realize that in your life, your mind is less reactive because you now have a relationship. So imagine that the mind, hands down, is the most powerful thing in the planet.
I totally agree. And I suppose that ties into, when we speak in such depth, it ties into a lot of my questions about mental health. I mean, because this covers the point completely. Spending time with yourself. What drew my attention when you said that someone would say that my mind, I can't shut off my mind to meditate. I can't fathom starting a question like that and asking somebody to answer me that, because you're giving me the answer. If that's where you're starting, it's good. It's probably going to be the most difficult thing you're doing.
Of course, you're fighting. It's like a husband and wife fighting one time, right? So the way we live in our lives now is almost like, and I like this analogy, it's like we coming home to our spouse, and our idea of spending time together is turning on the TV and eating potato chips and flicking through channels.
Numbing yourself.
Absolute numb. So there's no depth of relationship, right? But if the mind is the most powerful thing on the planet, like we said, it could be medicine, it could be poison. But if your mind is so powerful and it's reactive and you have no relationship to it, it's controlling you.
Troy, is this very important? And then sometimes we have to look at what is influencing us and what is our stimuli around us. Who are, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but who are we putting ourselves around to carry us to where we want to be? How are we orienting ourselves with our goals? Because I personally believe, regardless of how strong you are, your mind is very malleable. If you're in a relationship with somebody, whether it's 3 weeks, a month, 6 months, after a while you end up saying the same thing they're saying. You'll develop a bond, a relationship. And then sometimes you have to look, because that's where it is. How are you putting yourself, because your mind will carry you where you want to go, but how are you taking accountability to get there based on knowing your mind?
And you have to be in alignment, right? A lot of time, I mean, you said relationships, a lot of time in relationships, we're looking for alignment externally, right? And we're looking for validation externally. So to me, if you're in alignment, you go wherever you had to go, Brett, because you have work to do, right? So a lot of time, at least for me, you know, my whole, I've never drank alcohol in my life. Let me rephrase, at 26 years old, when I came back from my first yoga training was when I had my first sip of wine. After this day, I've never sipped anything other than wine, right? So people are always like, well, how you going parties and how you out in all this madness and mayhem? For me, granted, there's sometimes I ain't doing it, Brad. I just ain't ready to deal, right? It's just too much lights, too much noise, too much surface. But a lot of time, I long for that.
Of course.
Because I walk into that, and almost every time, there's one conversation or there's some person I meet or I have a conversation with that I know that's why I came out tonight.
Right.
Because, like I say, we have work to do. And if we could get ourselves in alignment, then we have work to do. Not once you do inner work, then we have work to do outside. But if you don't do inner work and you're trying to do work outside, we have to really look at how we contribute.
The quality of your work won't be good.
Yeah.
If that's it.
Yeah.
It brings up the point also where you said, when you go to that one conversation, but it always struck me, and until I saw it happen in life, we have so many people in our lives that we could, I don't want to say use, but of benefit to us, and we can help each other. But because we're in this society and structure, we go out, we ask the same thing. Hey, what are you doing? Where are you drinking? Where we liming? This, that.
Yeah.
We have the wrong conversations with the right people. And sometimes they're close to us. Until sometimes I started, a lot of the people who I see out, you make an active effort to say, what do you do? What's going on? And you realize, I didn't know I had this person who could do this right in my life.
Yeah.
I've been engaging in the wrong things. So I suppose you clear up yourself in a certain way. It will happen. The energy will bring it to you.
Yeah.
But stimuli and mindset going forward again.
Yeah, absolutely. And a good example of that too, boy Mark, is, and I'm guilty of all this stuff too. I love to make that clear that I am in human experience.
First, I would also want to say I join you, because part of me doing anything like this is because it's reaching a better place.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is not about perfection.
Yeah.
It's about trying to get the best out of yourself.
Yeah.
And continue.
Yeah. So a lot of the time, like, you would see someone say, yeah, Mark, how are you doing? Good. When in reality, if I was to pay attention.
Are you really asking me how I'm going?
Yeah, I could be like, nah, really, how you doing? Because something, you're looking like a little off, and you say, boy,
you could feel it.
My girlfriend, my wife, my job, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, I realize that, wow, I have something to offer to lift you up, right? Or the other way around. You might have something to offer me. And that's the depth of relationship. But right now, we're living on this surface level. Facebook followers, Instagram followers, blah, blah, blah. We're so concerned with what everything looks like. And like, even when teaching, there's so many ways that the practice of yoga reflects what's happening in our life directly. And I always say in classes to practitioners, it's like, the practice of yoga has nothing to do with what you do. It has everything to do with how you do it.
Great.
And the relationship and the depth we bring into how we do things is what's important.
100% agree. Troy, I have one more thing I want to ask you, because I suppose it ties into everything. And, we spoke a bit about different substances people use, whether it's bringing you closer to enlightenment, or bringing you closer to yourself, or taking you further away. And, I just said we had marijuana legalized in Trinidad for different reasons, not going to go into that, but we spoke a bit about Imperial College and, what they're doing with regards to psychedelics. And I remember in the 60s, people thought when the CIA was investigating LSD, they were doing it as a mind-controlling drug. Yet it turned out to be a mind-freeing drug. And now you have research and money going into these things where you're seeing how it's helping people. What are your thoughts from, and you don't have to expand on any, but your general idea, because people use ayahuasca, and then I've seen in 60 Minutes with Anderson Cooper, terminal patients saying they saw God. And then they are at peace with themselves dying, if that is it. What are your thoughts on psychedelics or anything like that, or any mind influencing things? Because I know we're going to be seeing more people using marijuana now.
Absolutely. I think all mind altering substances, psychedelics, marijuana, all of it have profound medicinal and spiritual value. Profound. And I think, like we talked about earlier, the world has been brainwashed. For decades now, our society has been regurgitating everything it's been told that is right and wrong, and just in this little box without really studying. Listen, well, this is garbage. This don't make no sense. Like, why are we treating it this way? Well, why is marijuana a bad thing?
Right.
When people drinking and getting on like absolute idiots, you know what I mean?
Of course.
So when initially all of these opinions or ideologies were a lot of the time driven by industrialization or money or greed. That's beside the point. We won't go there. But my point is this. I believe psychedelics, ayahuasca, marijuana, you name it, a lot, I wouldn't say all, a lot of these substances have profound benefit to mankind and our evolution, right? However, like anything, if it's misused or used inappropriately, it will be absolutely detrimental.
Of course.
And I think that, remind me, share a story with you
Sure.
on the end of this, right? Before any kids I forget. If someone is not doing any work, if someone is not in alignment and ready to take a journey, then that journey could possibly have the opposite effect.
It's going to blow it up even further.
It's going to blow it up even further.
Totally agree.
And you know what? There's a beautiful saying that says, and I say yoga, but you could say self-development or realization or anything.
Yeah.
That journey towards consciousness, it's a work in. It's not a work out.
100%, yeah, I
right?
agree.
And if you are using these substances consciously or unconsciously as a avenue of avoidance, as an avenue of distraction, as an avenue of feeling okay when inside you're not feeling okay, that's going to be really detrimental to you and society.
It's going to unravel you at a point where you should be building up.
Yeah. There's a beautiful teacher, his name is Ram Dass. He died a few weeks ago, right? He was a Harvard University teacher back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And he's one of the first that began to experiment and develop LSD as a psychedelic. Now, him and I say these names so people can go and look them up.
Of course, yeah,
out,
yeah,
right?
by all means, yeah.
But Ram Dass and Krishna Das and even Steve Jobs back in the day, they connected with a guru, to make this story short, a guru in India called Neem Karoli Baba.
Okay.
Amazing Indian saint. And they used to go and spend time with him. And they often say in their interviews that he never taught anything. All he did was sit. And he would come and sit with him. But the energy and what this man gave off was so mind-boggling that you felt it in your bones, that you knew you had to be with this man and sit with this man. And of course, back then in the 60s, 70s, they were doing LSD, right? So they used to go to India to be with Neem Baba, and they were doing LSD and acid and whatever. And one day, now I'm telling someone else's story.
Yeah, of course.
So,
yeah, no problem.
So
paraphrase it as you will.
Yeah. So they asked him, Neem Baba says to them one day randomly, he says, give me some of your yogi medicine.
Yeah.
And he has been said to have known things that he wouldn't know. There's no way he knew things about, but he knew these things.
Yeah.
And he said, give me some of your yogi medicine. And he took 2 tabs of acid, and they sat with him, and they said nothing happened. He was absolutely normal, and he sat there for a whole day like normal. So they went back to America, and they, of course, kept talking about, well, what happened? Did he trick us? Did he throw it over his shoulder? Like, he must have tricked us or something, but next time we're going to get him when we go back, right? So next time they went to India, they took a lot of acid. And when they sat with him, he immediately said, gestured his hand to say, give me some of your medicine. And his story goes that he intentionally showed them he was swallowing every one. And they said he ate your whole bag, enough acid to kill a horse. And they sat with him, and nothing happened. And the following year, days later, they go to him and they said, Baba, what do you think of our yogi medicine? And he said this, he said it's okay for beginners. He said it will get you into a room with Christ, but you cannot stay. The only way you can stay is love.
Excellent.
And it's important for us to realize that within our body is cannabinoid receptors from marijuana, is DMT receptors from ayahuasca. And we have within us all these receptors to these chemicals, these medicines or
exogenous stuff.
And it's just about doing the work, so we can be in a natural state to access all of that. You know, I often and recently I've been talking a lot about, in almost every spiritual tradition, we talk about being made in the image and likeness of God. Right? But it's almost like a long history and generations, we've created a God that's more like mortal man. A God that is judgmental and fearful and all this stuff, rather than creating men that are more like God. And if we listen to that teaching very carefully, you are made in the image and likeness of God. And you really sit back and look at what creation is, then anyone who really claims to have a faith in that, there's nothing that's beyond our human form.
Of course.
But we have to read the manual and spend the time to see, how do we access these things? How do we step in to that, what it means to be as God is? And this to me doesn't mean judgmental or jealous. It means loving, compassionate beyond understanding, forgiving beyond fathom. And that is what the element of, at least the God I connect to, that's what the characteristics and elements of God are. So for me, I long on earth in my human body to one day embody that. And I think that's what we need to connect to as
I agree.
Beings.
Connectivity. I agree. So Troy, I have no words to describe how great this has been for me. I've wanted to speak to you because I totally agree with a lot of your things you've said. I thank you for your time so much, but before I let you go, I just have to ask you 3 questions that I usually ask every guest. I'm going to start very simple. I mean, if we were just to end now, and I mean, you just had to give somebody concise answers. I mean, what are 3 things from your point of view that you think someone could do daily, weekly, monthly to improve their health from a yoga point of view?
Sit and meditate. Meditate in the simplest form. Set your phone for 5 minutes. Turn off every other form of external stimuli and just sit. And if you connect to prayer, you pray before you sit and you pray after you sit. But just sit quietly and start to deepen your relationship to your mind. Look at your thoughts. Try to understand where these thoughts coming from. Are they fear-based? Are they jealousy-based? Are they worry-based? And then just try to understand the mind a little bit. Spend a little bit of time. Because your mind's going to be busy, and you connect to breath and you focus, and your mind's going to run off. That's natural. But commit to spending time with your mind. In a really, start with 5 minutes. That's all it is. And your children, same thing. Make them do the same.
I mean, to start from a young age. Secondly, you obviously gained experience through your years, and your birthday was yesterday. Happy belated. I think I messaged you. You're 41 now?
40.
40. Apologies, I'm not trying to rush you. What would a 40 Troy look back and tell a younger version of himself? Things that you would have gathered in the years that a young person could have said, you know what, this could have fast-tracked me had I known this, you know? Would it be stillness and meditation still, you know?
Absolutely. I would say that I would look back and tell myself, you have no clue. And I'm sure in 40 more years, I'll look back and I tell myself, you have no clue. Because no clue. No matter what we think we know, we have no clue what we are part of. And our existence and our place in this universe, we cannot fathom. It is beyond our understanding. It is way beyond our understanding. I would also tell myself that you are way more powerful than you could ever imagine. And I would remind myself that every single thing I did makes a huge difference. You know, and when we practice yoga now, I always remind practitioners, don't just drop your hands. Don't just fix your clothes. That's all unconscious action. Move gracefully. Release your hands. You need to scratch your head? Scratch your head. But be aware of everything you do, say, and think, and how it contributes to the world and people around you, because you are powerful.
And do everything with intent.
And you could impact and change someone's life with a smile or a hug or a simple word. And don't let anyone feel left out. Forgive everybody for everything, because everybody is doing the best they could possibly do with what they know.
Yeah.
And boy, I would have so much to tell myself 20 years ago.
But I think those were good points anybody could use at the end of the day. Because you just want to see, we always think we compare ourselves last year or the year before, and we're wondering, had I known this? But that's your evolution. That's life. You just have to recognize that you are learning, but make forward steps.
Yeah. And like you mentioned in a discussion before we officially started, everything is always changing. So what we knew to be true yesterday or 5 years ago
may not be there.
Might not be true today. And what may have served us in our life last year or yesterday or 10 years ago, it could be a relationship, it could be a habit, it could be a ritual. But that very thing that served us before might be holding us back now. And the only way for us to really realize that is to, in His stillness, to be authentic, to look into His shadow, and have the courage to turn that shadow to light.
Well said.
Yeah.
Troy, last question.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the future? I don't know, 1 year, 5 years, but what is your impact you hope to see with regards to everything with yoga, health, and what you do here? What is your vision of yourself there that you have? Or are you just open considering it all?
I can't say I try too much to project onto a vision, because like I said, in teachings of yoga and in practice of yoga is about being present. And I believe that if you're present in every moment and you're listening carefully and paying attention and you're courageous, every moment is going to lead you exactly where you need to go. It's like stepping stones, And sometimes we focus so much on a point 5, 10 years away from now that we miss everything in between. I might want to go over here.
Yeah.
So I so focus on that, I doing this. Whereas what I really need to be doing is this.
Could have something else for you.
Because that's a journey along life where I pick up everything I need. So when I get here, I'm ready to be here. And all I could really hope for myself is that every day I am present and I am able to show up from a place of love, compassion, understanding, forgiveness as much as I possibly can, so I could embody that love that I believe in and that love that my teacher has showed me.
Yeah.
And that's all I could hope for, is that to answer your question, in 10 years or 20 years, that I could look back on my life and say, I did my best. I loved as fiercely and courageously as I could possibly love. And I did everything I could do at that point in my life with what I knew to show up from that place and to embody that.
Of course. Yeah. And I don't think there's much better than a goal than that. Yeah. No. So Troy, thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely fantastic. If anyone wants to find you, I know they can find you at Troy Hadeed on Instagram or at One Yoga Studio. Yeah. And I'm just really, really grateful for your time. Thank you so much, Troy.
Thank you much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Thanks.